There are moments in football when the silence behind the scenes speaks louder than any roar from the stands. Newcastle United supporters can sense when something is about to happen, whether it's through the way the media begins to speculate, the hushed conversations in the city's pubs, or even the slightly different demeanor of the players on the pitch. Right now, there is tension in the air, and anyone following the club knows this is not just another baseless rumor. Something bigger is unfolding. And if you, watching this video right now, want to follow every twist and turn of this mysterious and dramatic scenario, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription is what allows us to keep bringing you exclusive and in-depth coverage of Newcastle United. With just one click, you become part of this passionate community that lives every moment of the club. Now, let's dive into a story that promises to shake the very foundations of St. James Park. The board knows they've already lost important players because of contractual disputes, and the pain of that recent experience still lingers. The most striking episode was the departure of Alexander Isak, which began when Amanda Staveley promised him a new deal. The arrival of Paul Mitchell, however, changed the club's stance, creating a deadlock that ended bitterly. Isak's transfer to Liverpool. That situation served as a major wake-up call. Since then, it has become clear to Eddie Howe and the hierarchy that they cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past. Newcastle must show stability, stand firm in its convictions, and above all, keep hold of its key players if the project is to keep growing on and off the pitch. And in the middle of all this turmoil, one name has emerged at the center of discussion, a player whose contractual situation is weighing heavily on the hearts of the fans. That name is Sven Botman, the Dutch centre-back, signed for £35 million from Lille in 2022, arrived at the club to be a true defensive pillar, and when fully fit, nobody questions his quality. He dominates at the back, exudes composure, and transmits confidence to the entire team. But the problem is that he hasn't always managed to maintain that consistency, largely due to injuries that have disrupted his progress. It's precisely this factor that makes the situation even more delicate. And before we go further into the behind-the-scenes details of this story, here's a quick reminder. If you're passionate about Newcastle United and don't want to miss any inside updates like this, hit the subscribe button now. It's quick, it's free, and it makes all the difference in keeping our detailed and exclusive coverage coming your way. According to information from The Athletic, Eddie Howe has no doubts about what he wants. He sees Botman as a fundamental part of Newcastle's future and is determined to convince him to sign a new contract. At present, the defender is tied down until 2027, but the concern is that by 2026 the club could face the risk of him entering the final year of his deal. That scenario is considered dangerous because if no extension is agreed, the hierarchy may be forced to sell in order to avoid losing him for nothing. The board knows such an outcome would be disastrous, especially as the club has just signed Malik Theo, who is viewed as the ideal long-term partner for Botman at the heart of the defense. The plan was to build a rock-solid pairing capable of supporting Eddie Howe's project for seasons to come. But for that vision to become reality, Botman must feel motivated, content, and above all, convinced that he has a clear place in the starting sheet. And this is where the real challenge lies. The Dutchman has already shown frustration on several occasions when left on the bench. This season, that frustration has become even more apparent. According to The Athletic, this sense of dissatisfaction has been a recurring theme. Even though he impressed in his second start against Bournemouth, he is aware of the heavy competition for places, with Dan Burn, for instance, still an almost immovable presence at the heart of Howe's defense. This type of scenario creates a real dilemma. How do you persuade a player to stay and extend his contract if he doesn't feel like an undisputed starter? The decision, therefore, goes far beyond numbers and proposals. It directly depends on the sporting project on offer. If Botman doesn't see a clear path for himself within Eddie Howe's plans, convincing him to commit his long-term future to Tyneside will be a major challenge. And here's another quick invitation for those of you who are still with us in this video. If you enjoy in-depth analysis and want to keep receiving content like this about Newcastle, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That's how we keep this space alive and bring you the updates that matter most to the supporters. Back to the issue. It's undeniable that Newcastle are at a crossroads. Allowing Botman to edge closer to the end of his contract without clarity could prove costly. At the same time, being forced to sell him in 2026, should no agreement be reached, would be a huge blow. As the centre-back is still at an excellent age to develop further and establish himself as one of the Premier League's best defenders. Time, therefore, is a crucial factor in this equation. This is not only about the present. Newcastle must plan for the future. Securing the long-term commitment of key players is essential to demonstrate consistency to both the market and the supporters. Isak's departure left a deep scar, and the board cannot afford to let history repeat itself. The Botman case is undoubtedly the next big test of maturity for Eddie Howe and the club's entire leadership. So the lingering question is, how long is Botman willing to wait and trust Howe's project? How far will Newcastle go to ensure he is at the center of their plans? The coming weeks and months may offer some important answers, but until then, the suspense remains. And as always, we'll be here to bring you every single update if you've made it this far into the video. You can see we're talking about a situation that could define the club's direction for years to come, so make sure you hit subscribe now. It's the simplest way to ensure you never miss anything happening in the world of Newcastle United.